ममवाजमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्.
We were having a discussion that what I wanted to say about the Maya, it's quite an abstract concept I was trying to explain. It appears in two places, in 7th chapter and 13th chapter. In 7th chapter, he has said that these are all apara prakriti, means just elements. But the appearance of the jiva also is part of prakriti, because the truth, it doesn't have anything second or anything, it is transcendental. Whenever any creation, any division, any separation comes, like subject-object, that prakriti coming in. Without prakriti, without karma, without energy, nothing can come. So even this jiva, formation of the jiva itself is part of the prakriti, but he is calling it the para prakriti, means the supreme prakriti. It's not the elemental prakriti of the objectude, because the objectude we are seeing is actually because of our indriyas, the senses. Suppose we have 5 senses, according to that we are seeing the world. Suppose we develop 10 senses, will not the world be entirely different? Suppose we develop microscopic vision, will not the world be entirely different? All these signals, they are coming to the senses. As soon as they go in, there is no vision, sound, anything at all. All are pulses, electrical pulses, which are reaching the brain. And where it is exciting the brain, depending on that, somewhere sound is produced, somewhere vision is produced, somewhere smell is produced. So the whole jugglery is taking place in the mind, in the consciousness. And even the body-mind complex also is an appearance in that consciousness. That is what he is saying. By jiva bhutam means becoming jiva. That means with the association of the body-mind complex, which is also a projection of the consciousness only. He is holding the whole prakriti, that whole world. Dharyate jagat. Dharyate means who is holding the world. Because this whole world, as we are perceiving, is held by the jiva. That is, it is a perception of the jiva which has projected, not produced. It is not a parinama srishti. Who has projected the body-mind complex, and through that the whole universe we are interacting with. Those who have seen that planetarium, you see in the sky the various planets, stars, etc. Actually, what is it? There is in the instrument there are star-like opening, there are red opening, pink opening, yellow opening. According to that is projected on the sky. Is it not so? So our jiva is like that. The 5 senses, they are projecting the world, which is a constitution, which is constituted of the 5 sense perceptions only. Our world is constituted of these 5 sense perceptions. In science, if we write, we will have 5 coordinates to explain the whole universe, because we are perceiving it with the 5 senses. But that, for jiva itself, it is appearing to be a jiva segregated from the consciousness in association with the body. But the whole thing is jugglery of the prakriti, that is what we call Maya. Now, if we understand Maya in this manner, the understanding will be a little better. That's what I wanted to do. The same thing again appears in 13th chapter. He is saying that Sanghatas Chetana Dhrutihi is there. You can read that in some, I don't remember now. Sanghatas Chetana. Sanghata means the body-mind complex. Sanghatas Chetana means the awareness we are feeling, that we generally refer to as consciousness generally. But here we are talking about the universal transcendental consciousness. But the awareness felt by the body, it is the Sanghatas Chetana. That means, as I said, the reflection of the light in the mirror. Sanghata is the mirror. When it is reflected, the reflected light, which is our general awareness, is the Sanghatas Chetana. That is also part of the Prakriti. Prakriti means the consciousness. Through Prakriti it is appearing like that. So it is part of the world projection. The actual, the pristine consciousness, there is nothing, there is no difference. Subject, object, nothing is there. So when the body falls, that Sanghatas Chetana dies. Nothing happens to the Chit, the original Chetana. So this Sanghatas Chetana also is called Chit Abhasa, Chidabhasa. This in Shastras, that is a common name. Chit Abhasa means it is like the Chit but not fully Chit. It is like the Chit, like the radiation, like the reflected beam of the mirror. It is like the original light, but it is actually reflected by this. So let us come back to 18th. In the 63rd shloka of 18th chapter, he says, before that he has completed what? In the beginning once he had said, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prajachati. There it was ordinary puja. You are offering Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, but with bhakti. Yome Bhaktya Prajachati. Tadaham Bhakti Uparhatam. That it is given with devotion, then it will have the effect. If you just go on giving all kinds of sweets and chapan bhog and all, nothing will happen. That bhakti element is what creates the transformation. Then he came to all the karmas to be offered as yajna. Then he came to yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tataha swakarmana tam abhyakcha siddhim vindati manavaha. That means with all your karma, all the four categories of people, depending on their swakarma, natural karma, you offer it to the Lord. How do you offer? By doing that natural karma without sangha, without desire. That is why we are saying natural karma. If the desire is there, the karma will not be the natural karma. You will be attracted and swayed by the desire. That we have explained in detail. Is it not? Then it won't be the pure karma just. Actually there is nothing wrong in karma. The karma binds us because of the desire and ego. If the desire and ego are taken away, then karma becomes absolutely pure. Like the whole universe is running with how much of action, activity, we cannot even imagine. In the universe, the amount of activities going on, can you imagine? It's unimaginable. Tremendous activities are going on. There is nothing wrong in that. The moment desire and ego is added to the karma, it becomes binding. That is creating the bondage. You can call ragadvesha also, it's all the same, ragadvesha and sangha. That is creating the bondage. So if that is eliminated, then all karmas become offered to yatha pravrittir bhutani yena sarvamidam tataha. The truth from which the whole creation has appeared and which is sustaining the whole creation, which is pervading the whole creation. Offer it to that. From there, karma offering to, in the 62nd verse which we have completed yesterday, Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata. Another step progress. What is that? Karma they are not saying. Whatever bhavas are coming in your mind, the emotions, the thoughts, everything. So it has become completely internalized. You don't have to do any activity also. So whatever bhavas are coming, you take refuge under him. Again, in the bhava, you have to notice where the smallness, the constrictions are coming by desire and ego. So if they are removed, then all the bhavas are given. Yesterday I told you that even the so-called gussa, so-called the anger, that also becomes beautiful if you are not the same powerful action if you are taking without ego, without desire, without personal any preference, prejudice or raga dvesha. Roshopi nirmaladhyam ramaniya eva. Did I not say yesterday? That those who are pure-minded, those whose minds are freed of all the desires and sangha, for them even the expression of the so-called krodha, actually it is not krodha, it is, we call it Rudramurti. In Shiva's case, when he is destroying everything, we call it Rudra Rupa. That means powerful, that is a pure expression, free of all preference, prejudice, sangha, ego, everything is not there. Then that same powerful expression is called Rudramurti. Shiva is called also Rudra because he is the Lord of destruction. So Sarva Bhavena Bharata, that means from the bhavas also we have to eliminate these two elements of sangha and ragadvesha, or can call ego and desires. Now in 63rd verse he is saying, Iti te jnanamakyatam
Iti te jnanamakyatam
guhyat guhyataram maya
guhyat guhyataram maya
vimrishyetadasheshena
vimrishyetadasheshena
yathechasi tatha kuru.
yathechasi tatha kuru.
See, this shloka actually is clarifying what he has told so far in the whole. He says, Iti te jnanam akhyatam guhyat guhyataram maya. By me, this knowledge, more secret than the secret, all whatever is there, everything I have told you. Vimrishyaitat asheshena. You think about it, you analyze it endlessly. Yathechasi tatha kuru, and then do whatever you like. That is, you fight the war or leave the war or take up sannyasa, whatever you feel fit for you, you do it after thinking that. So it says that although he had been talking about surrender, talking about sarva bhavena, swakarmana, patram pushpam phalam toyam, all this they have said. But the whole action, the responsibility is still resting on you. That means on your ego. That you have to do it. So he is clarifying it by giving this statement that I have told you everything, now you think well and do whatever you do. That means you have to decide what you are going to do. Whether your surrender is true or not, you have to analyze that. Am I deceiving myself? Because self-deception is very common in surrender. People will say that humne to sab kuch chhod diya hai. Whether it is to God or anybody, it is a deception. So you have to analyze whether you have surrendered or not. All the analysis is resting on you. Now saying that, so you do, that means the responsibility on you. Saying that, he says that, but Arjuna, you are my most favorite. You are my most beloved. I cannot leave you like that because there is something still more which I have not told you. What is that? Sarva guhyatamam. He says, I have told you, I am telling you again, but not in this manner. In 9th chapter yesterday I showed that similar things have been uttered, but in a casual manner, not in this manner. Here he is coming to the end point of surrender. Sarva guhyatamam bhuyaha
Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyaha
Shrinu me paramam vachaha
Shrinu me paramam vachaha
Ishtosi me dridhamiti
Ishtosi me dridhamiti
Tato vakshyami te hitam
Tato vakshyami te hitam.
You are my Ishta and very strongly, so for your welfare I am disclosing this ultimate secret, that supreme secret. What is that? Manmana bhava madbhakto
Manmana bhava madbhakto
madhyaji mam namaskuru
Madhyaji mam namaskuru
mame vaishyasi satyam te
Mame vaishyasi satyam te
pratijani priyosi me.
Pratijane priyosi me.
See, here here he is saying that just before he said, you do whatever you feel like. Here he is standing in front and saying that you don't have to worry about anything. What is Sarvaguhyatamam, the ultimate secret? I have given you all the knowledge, you have, whatever you have understood, you have understood. But there is, in the war, you are not going to be able to so much think and analyze and do the right thing. How will you do? The war is a kind of involvement which we cannot even imagine. Even otherwise also, there is a scope of self-deception and everything. So the greatest secret is that when the Guru, the realized Guru, the Sadguru, who has identified with the soul, with the universal soul, that is why Krishna everywhere he is saying, Mat comes to me, becomes like me, because his me is not the body-mind limited me. His me is the universal, transcendental Atma. So he comes in front as the Guru to guide the disciple. Then only the surrender takes its final form. Generally we talk about 4 Purusharthas. What is that? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. It ends with Moksha. Beyond Moksha is considered to be Sharanagati. Surrender. That means he will not even want Moksha. He will say, oh Lord, whatever you feel like, you take me there. I don't know anything about it. If I have to get born again and again, the common religious idea of moksha, I am ready to do that also. I am not interested even in moksha. So he renounced everything looking for moksha. Then finally, he renounces that also. That is the Sharanagati. That is our desire, if you say desire, our attraction for this ultimate goal makes us renounce everything of the world. All other things are renounced. But ultimately this desire also has to be renounced. Suppose self-realization. People become so much concentrated to realize the self. For that they renounce everything. Nothing anymore attracts him. But the last point is he has to renounce that desire also. He has to drop that desire also. Then only he will become whatever he is. He attains the truth. So, Sharanagati is considered to be the 5th Purushartha. Our Baba, our Gurudev, when he went to Narayana Tirthadev, the Param Gurudev in present Bangladesh, in Faridpur, his Jnana Sadhana Mat was his ashram. Whether it is there, we don't know. So Baba went there and while attending his satsang, he used to write down in his diary. So that we had discussed as the Sharanagati, the Panchama Purushartha, the 5th Purushartha. There he is saying that, Ore, I have to speak in Bengali, then I will translate. Ore, शरणागति की अतई सोजा रे भगवान के देखली ना शुनली ना तिनी आছেন কিনা জানিসও না আর তুমি সবকিছু ভগবানকে দিয়ে বসলি Is surrender so easy? The God you have never seen, never known, whether he is at all there also you don't know. How will you surrender to the God? How have you done? We have tried to explain this surrender, that when there is no desire and when there is no ego, then it is surrender. That is our practice. But how that practice will finally materialize, that when the God comes right in front in the form of the Guru, and when the Guru tells you to do something, you will find it very difficult because it may go against your preference and prejudice. I have told so many times that I was deadly against construction. Deadly against means my father had sent once to look after the house he was constructing for seeing, because I had finished my 12th class at that time, so I was free. After 2 days, the chief mason told my father that ye ladka ko bhejne se koi fayda nahi hai. There is no point in sending this boy because he is reading some book lying on the charpai. He is not seeing anything. See, the bricks have gone like this and it has come like this. He did not see. Actually, it is his fault. The mason should have seen that the bricks have been wrongly laid. But he is blaming me for that. So my father said that, "Theek hai, you don't have to go anymore. My work was over." I was very much against construction. Even when we were working in Calcutta, father wanted so many times to have a house there so that I can stay in the house and go. कब छोड़ देंगे कुछ पता नहीं है, फिर घर क्यों बनाएंगे? When I am going to renounce, nobody knows. Any day I can walk off. Why should we have a property, a burden again? Like that it was. And you know, the day I entered ashram, joined the ashram, the next day Swamiji was standing on the pathway and I came there. He said, "No, my name was whatever was my name, that since you have come, let us start some construction." So I understood. Actually, before joining the ashram, I was thinking that one day I saw Swamiji's behavior. I had visited the ashram in 86 May, then again in 86 December, then I joined the ashram in 87 May. Now, which was the time I don't remember, either 86 May or 86 December, when we were there, something happened. And Swamiji was very powerfully speaking to some local hooligans and all. Calling them to the ashram, he was speaking. From a distance, I was observing, what is this? What is Swamiji doing? So Swamiji came running near me and said that, don't get affected. I have called them to put some sense in them. Then again he ran to them and started shouting at them and all that. So I was wondering, in my mind I was thinking that what is this? Nobody would like to face these people. Even on the road, if you see such people, you would avoid and go avoiding them. Anybody. And here is a saint. A saint generally will like a peaceful life. He is of a peaceful nature. What made him call these people and speak with so much of fervor that any time they can attack? It was like that. So I was thinking and I understood that he is doing, it is thinking about the society. And whatever he thinks have to be done, for that he has renounced his preference prejudice, that he doesn't mind facing these people also. Later on we came to know further, because we participated in 5 movements which he took up there, getting arrested by the police and all. So we came to know very well, which all I have written in the book, A Great Association. So that we came to know later. But at that time, knowing it, thinking about it, then I understood that the sadhana, ultimate sadhana, is to go beyond likes and dislikes. By that time, our sadhana were more or less done. I mean, I did not need anything more, but I understood that this is what I lack. That is going beyond likes and dislikes. And that will not happen if you are staying in home, because you have always preference. The people you don't want to visit your home will not come there. So you are protected. Ramakrishna Dev used to say that doing sadhana from home is like fighting from inside the fort. That you will not be open to this. And if you come to know what all things we face the first 5 years, the kind of people, the spies from USA, spies from Russia, all sorts of people have come there and created problem from us. What kind of a life we had gone through from particularly 87 to 92. So never it would have happened if we had stayed according to our own place. Whatever we prefer, we would do. Other things we will not do. So that day I understood that if I come to ashram, join the ashram, it will be to get over the likes and dislikes. That is the sadhana I have to do. So the second day when Swamiji said that let us do some construction, I understood, it has already started. So somehow nature has taken care of it, that whatever I dislike now I have to do. And you know, it started from making a garage to prayer hall to one after another, finally all everywhere, even CIRD Delhi and CIRD here, but Tiwariji also had been looking after both CIRD Delhi and CIRD Jamshedpur but the major decisions and everything I had to take. Particularly our construction of the guest house and all, everything I had to design fully. And we were working with the masons also. We have concreted the roof, concreting, etc. We have worked with everything, everybody, throughout. So I always, the 25 years, now it is 32, but 25 years I did not have anybody to pass over the rudder to take over my job. I was doing only construction and construction. So this is where I understood that we have to go beyond. It's not easy to go beyond the likes and dislikes, prejudice, preference and prejudice. Only when the Guru says that you have to do, and you should be all out ready to do immediately. There should not be any resistance at all. Then only it is surrender. And by that you will get so much of joy in surrendering your ego, your preference and prejudice. We all say it is Guru Bhakti, Guru Bhakti. I say I never had any Guru Bhakti. I don't know whether I had Guru Bhakti. But I have a love that is different. But I have done whatever is told. So that becomes the greatest test for Sharanagati. Did I tell in English what Narayana Tirthadev said, or I forgot in the process? He said that God, you cannot, how can you surrender to God? Because God you have not seen. You don't know whether He is or not even. Your surrender will never become complete until you have to surrender before the Guru. Because Guru's words you have to follow, and there you cannot have any judgment at all. Oh, why is he asking me to do this? It is not a good thing. He is asking me to do something wrong. Nothing. Whatever he is asking, why should he ask you to do something wrong? He is a person who has got over all the things. If at all he asks you to do something wrong, there is a greater Shubha, greater auspicious goal behind that. Just like when Krishna asked Yudhishthir to say that your son is dead. Yudhishthir refused because he was egoistic about his satya, his truthfulness. But why should Krishna ask him to tell a lie? There is greater truth behind that, but he refused to do that. So the kind of surrender Arjuna had, Yudhishthir did not have. He was egoistic about his dharma, his satya, everything. So that dharma he was still attached to. That is why the next sentence comes, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Mam ekam. Nothing else. You have to take refuge in me alone, me and me alone.